All right, let's dive in. Seems like someone's looking to spice things up in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And they've brought us, well,
A cloth.
the complete photo guide to great sex. Had to check it out myself.
Yeah.
And wow, this book,
It's,
it really does live up to the name.
Yeah.
Pictures for, like, every position imaginable.
It's visually driven, for sure.
Yeah.
But honestly, the thing that grabs me is the nuance, you know? It's not just about the positions,
Right.
but those tiny details,
Yeah.
like a slight change in angle, the way you move, how you talk to each other.
And communication.
All of that takes it to another level.
I got to admit, starting this,
Yeah.
I thought, what more is there to learn?
Yeah.
But just chapter 1, supine sex,
Oh, yeah.
blew my mind. I thought that was just missionary, maybe a variation or two.
Right.
Turns out there's a whole world of
Yeah.
possibilities, even lying down.
It's amazing how the positions you think you know can totally change.
Really?
With just a tiny tweak. Like they show how raising your legs or tilting your hips completely shifts the angle
Interesting.
and hits different spots.
So it's not just finding the right position.
Yeah.
It's knowing how to adjust it for different
Exactly.
sensations. Makes sense. They call it a complete guide.
That's the point. And some of the examples are wild. Did you see that one? Elevating the woman's feet to her shoulders?
Oh, yeah?
Boosts G-spot stimulation, apparently.
Wow.
Or the woman lying on her side, fetal position. That little shift creates a whole different feel.
So maybe I have learned a thing or two.
I think we all have.
And we're just getting started.
Oh,
Chapter 2. Standing positions.
yeah.
Already feeling adventurous?
That's the spirit. Standing positions, they definitely bring the excitement, the spontaneity.
Yeah.
But they can be tricky, too. You got to think about balance, height differences, finding the right support.
It's more complex.
It is.
I did see they had tips for using furniture.
Yeah.
Or a wall,
Yeah.
even. And keeping clothes on for a quickie adds to that.
Oh, definitely. Adapting to your surroundings, keeping it fun.
Exactly.
And you know what's coming next.
What's that?
Woman on top.
Oh, I'm intrigued by their take on this one.
Me too. I mean, we all know it's great for lots of reasons.
For sure.
But this book goes deep on the benefits.
Both physical and...
Everything. It really highlights the control a woman has.
Yeah.
Setting the pace, depth, finding what feels amazing for her and for the guy. Visually, incredibly stimulating.
This is getting interesting. I see they even get into specific techniques.
Oh, yeah.
Like different leg positions, leaning forward, back, all targeting different.
Exploration is key. Finding what works for both of you.
And speaking of exploring,
Mm-hmm.
things get really interesting when we hit the Kama Sutra.
And the perfumed garden.
Yeah, those chapters. A little intimidating at first.
I get it.
Ancient texts, intricate positions.
Right.
But the way they break it down, explain the philosophy.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how these ancient cultures saw sex as an art form.
It's more than just the physical.
Way deeper. A connection, even a path to, like, spiritual stuff.
Yeah, they said the Kama Sutra isn't just positions.
No.
It's about sensuality, mindfulness, even healing.
Right. And the perfumed garden, different culture, but same idea, technique, and mindfulness intertwined.
So we've got ancient wisdom, then we jump to chapter 6, acrobatic positions. This is where I started thinking, do we need a trainer?
I hear ya. Some of those are definitely pushing the limits,
Yeah.
but they stress safety first, for sure. And you need trust, communication.
Absolutely.
It's not about contorting yourselves into pretzels.
Right.
It's about finding the fun, the adventure, while staying safe.
I did notice that, even with the wild ones, like the split on the staircase.
Oh, that one.
They talk about adapting for different bodies, experience levels.
Gotta work for you.
Exactly. And then whole chapter for one position, the 360-degree turn. You got to explain this one. Just reading it made me dizzy.
All right, picture this. You start in missionary,
Okay.
and then slowly you rotate a full circle
Right.
without breaking contact. Coordination, strength, they break it down into steps. How to use your arms for support. Keep that motion smooth.
Sounds like quite the experience.
If you can pull it off.
Before we get too acrobatic, let's talk about something more fundamental.
Okay.
Oral sex. Whole chapter dedicated to it.
Important stuff.
I think a lot of people could learn from this.
Absolutely. It's often overlooked, but the book emphasizes the technique, the communication, knowing what your partner likes.
They do have separate sections for, well,
Fellatio and cunnilingus.
makes sense, different approaches.
Totally. They cover everything. Teasing, pacing, how to use your tongue, lips, even your hands.
It's an art form.
It is!
Okay, we've covered a lot, but one more thing before we wrap up this part.
Right.
Anal sex. Sensitive topic,
Definitely.
but the book is very careful and practical about it.
Safety and consent come first, always.
Yeah.
They really stress starting slow, making sure everyone's comfortable.
Lots of tips for making it feel good,
Yeah!
like lubrication, starting with fingers.
Gradually easing into things.
And they say anal sex isn't just penetration. There are other ways to stimulate the area that can be pleasurable,
Exactly.
like using a finger or a toy to massage around the opening.
Finding what feels good, exploring without pressure.
And even for anal sex, they have a variety of positions.
There's always options.
They suggest some for beginners, like kneeling, for shallower penetration.
Makes sense.
But then there's the adventurous ones, the rising star, where the woman's legs are up by her face.
Wow.
That one takes flexibility.
For sure. But it shows there's always room to explore. Find what works for you and your partner.
Absolutely, within any category.
Okay, I think that's a good spot to pause for now.
Yeah.
We've gone from basic positions to ancient text to acrobatics.
Quite the journey.
And we're just getting started.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the complete photo guide to great sex.
Part 2, we're back.
We covered so much already, from basic positions to, ancient practices.
I know, it's amazing.
But we've got more to explore.
So much more. But before we jump ahead...
I want to circle back to that chapter on oral sex.
Oh, yeah, good one.
It just felt like there was so much good stuff in there. Stuff I think a lot of people could use a refresher on.
Absolutely. It's often seen as, basic.
Right.
But this book, it really gets into the skill, the art of giving and receiving oral pleasure.
What I really liked was the emphasis on the teasing, the anticipation.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
Taking your time, building the excitement before you even get started.
It's not just about the act itself.
Right.
It's a whole sensual experience, engaging all the senses.
I like that.
For example, with fellatio, they suggest things like slowly unzipping his pants, maybe a little smile before you even start.
Oh, I like that.
Creating that sense of anticipation, that desire.
Yeah, instead of just going straight for it.
Exactly. And once you do get started, varying the technique, using both suction and tongue movements, your hands even, to really add to the sensation.
It's almost like a dance.
It is. And for cunnilingus, they really emphasize a slow build-up. Not rushing to the clitoris, but taking the time to explore other areas first, like the inner thighs.
Interesting.
Mons pubis, even.
That makes sense. Building that excitement, making it a more holistic experience.
It's all connected, and they even suggest using fingers during cunnilingus. Simultaneous stimulation can be incredibly intense.
So we talked oral, now let's talk about the elephant in the room.
What's that?
Anal sex. I know, it can be taboo.
Definitely.
But the book handles it so well, so sensitive and practical.
Safety and consent first, always. That's their big message. Starting slow, building comfort, making sure both partners are totally on board.
Yeah.
Every step of the way.
And they have those really helpful tips.
Yeah.
For making it more comfortable. Plenty of lubrication, starting with fingers, gradually stretching those muscles.
It's all about easing into it.
And they say, it's not just penetration.
No, definitely not.
There are other ways to stimulate the area that can be, really pleasurable.
For sure.
Like just using a finger or a toy to massage around the opening.
Finding what feels good, exploring without pressure.
And even for anal sex, they have a bunch of different positions.
Oh, they do.
Suggesting some for beginners.
Yeah.
Like kneeling, shallower penetration.
Makes sense.
But then they've got the adventurous stuff. The rising star, where the woman's legs are, up by her face.
Oh, wow. That's flexibility goals, right?
Definitely. But it just goes to show there's always room to explore, to find what works for you and your partner within any category.
That's the beauty of it.
It is.
All right, now for the fun stuff.
What's that?
Toys and kink. This is where the book really lets loose, encourages us to get playful.
Embrace that side of yourselves. It's all about adding a new dimension to your experiences, finding those sparks of excitement, pleasure.
Yeah.
And it starts with vibrators.
Of course.
You have a whole section, different techniques, solo play, using them with a partner.
Yeah.
Even using them to stimulate the perineum, which for men can indirectly hit that prostate.
Interesting.
Lots of possibilities.
I'll be honest, vibrators always intimidated me a little.
But the book makes them seem so approachable, fun.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
And they don't shy away from other toys either.
No.
Dildos, butt plugs.
Oh, wow.
Even six swings.
Okay, the sex swing, I gotta admit, that one caught my eye.
I bet it did.
I was a little intimidated at first. But they explain how it can actually make certain positions easier, taking the pressure off.
It can by supporting your weight.
Right. And it just adds that whole new level of excitement, playfulness.
For sure. And speaking of pushing boundaries, they talk about strap-ons.
Oh, yeah.
How they can empower women, let them take charge, explore different roles.
That's something I've always been curious about.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can't talk about kink without a little sensual, teasing, light bondage.
Oh, absolutely.
They suggest things like using a feather, blindfolds, even experimenting with handcuffs.
Always with safety and consent, of course.
Of course.
Finding what turns you on, communicating with your partner, creating a safe and pleasurable experience.
It's all about that open communication.
It-
So we've talked a lot about techniques, positions.
We have.
But one of the biggest takeaways for me is that emphasis on detail.
It's not just going through the motions.
No, it's about paying attention to those little things that enhance pleasure.
Being present in the moment.
Yeah.
Savoring every sensation, connecting with your partner physically and emotionally.
They talk about things like varying the pace, the pressure, exploring different angles, even eye contact, communication throughout the experience.
It's those little things that make all the difference.
And that brings us to another crucial element that runs throughout the book.
What's that?
Communication. Not just saying yes or no,
Right.
but really being open with your partner.
Honesty.
What feels good, what you want to try, your boundaries.
Absolutely. Open communication, that's the foundation of a healthy, fulfilling sexual relationship.
Couldn't agree more.
Building trust, exploring desires, creating that safe space to express yourselves.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this second part.
We've
explored oral techniques, toys, kink.
so much.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. But there's more to come. Join us for the final part of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
We'll delve into the Kama Sutra and the perfumed garden in more detail.
Yeah?
And maybe even attempt that 360-degree turn.
Oh, my.
Metaphorically speaking, of course.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into the complete photo guide to great sex.
Back for more.
And I'm excited to finally dig into those ancient texts we talked about.
Oh, yeah, the classics.
The Kama Sutra and the perfumed garden.
They're really something else, a window into how people throughout history have approached sex.
It's fascinating.
And they're packed with wisdom about pleasure, connection.
And spirituality, right?
It's all intertwined.
The Kama Sutra chapter, it really grabbed me. You could tell it's not just about the positions themselves.
That's the whole experience.
Yeah, creating something fulfilling both physically and emotionally.
Exactly.
One position that stood out, the swing.
Oh, that one's interesting. A kind of circular motion requires both partners to be totally in sync.
I can imagine.
Like a dance almost. And then there's the clenching caresses.
Oh, yeah.
Where the woman uses her vaginal muscles to control the sensation.
And I was so intrigued by that.
It's next level stuff.
This idea of specific muscle control, enhancing pleasure for both partners.
Like a secret skill.
And the book talks about mindfulness in these positions.
Oh, absolutely.
Being present, connecting, really savoring the experience.
It's all about the journey.
Now, the perfume garden, that's 16th century Arabia, right?
That's right. A different cultural lens.
But it also emphasizes technique. Finding what works for each couple.
Customization is key.
What struck me about the perfume garden was how it addresses different body types.
They were ahead of their time.
Yeah, like they have positions for couples with big size differences.
Recognizing that what works for one couple might not for another.
It's so true. And they even have positions for, well, let's just say, those who are more well-endowed.
You got to be inclusive.
It's refreshing, to see a text that acknowledges that everyone's different.
There's no one-size-fits-all.
Exactly. It's about finding what feels good for you and your partner, no matter your size or shape.
That's the beauty of it.
So we've gone from ancient wisdom to, well, modern-day acrobatics in Chapter 6, acrobatic positions.
That's quite a leap.
I gotta say, some of these had me wondering if we needed a personal trainer.
Some of those are for the flexible folks, for sure.
Like Cirque du Soleil level stuff.
Right. But even if you're not doing a standing split on the staircase anytime soon?
Probably not.
The book has great tips for bringing in that playfulness, that movement.
And they're big on safety and support.
Always.
Making sure you're strong enough, you trust each other, communicate.
It's not just about twisting yourselves into knots.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot between challenge and pleasure.
Pushing boundaries safely.
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of pushing boundaries.
What have we got?
Chapter 7, the 360-degree turn. This one's less about acrobatics, more about, well,
continuous motion.
That's one way to put it.
It's an interesting concept. You need a lot of coordination, trust.
Like a synchronized swim?
You start in missionary, and then, slowly, Rotate a full 360 degrees.
Without breaking contact.
That's the goal.
That sounds challenging.
It takes practice, communication, but the book breaks it down into stages.
Okay.
How to use your arms, keep it smooth.
Like a dance.
It's a dance of its own kind.
So, wow, we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have, from ancient times to modern moves.
But for me, the biggest takeaways go beyond the specific techniques.
I agree.
It's about that communication, being present, paying attention to the details.
And always, always prioritizing safety and consent.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This whole deep dive, it's really opened my eyes to the possibilities.
That's what it's all about.
I'm feeling inspired to try new things, to talk more openly with my partner.
That's great. And remember, this is just the beginning. The real exploration that happens when you take this knowledge and make it your own.
So to everyone listening out there,
yeah,
go explore, be adventurous, and most importantly,
what's that?
have fun.